Hello, 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 everybody. Welcome to a special edition of Tracy's Week in Review. I have a guest. We don't do this often on this show. You all know that watch this show because I'm a football fanatic and football basically disappeared in February. And I'm like, what am I going to do with myself? So I got a podcast. So I have a guest here today. We'll let our guest introduce himself here in just a moment. This is my fourth podcast in a matter of 2 days. So guys, I'm gonna take a nap. I'm gonna take a long nap and go to sleep afterwards. But I do have some bills that I have to get paid. We're gonna make this as quick as possible. Subscribe, please subscribe. You all know I'm trying to get to 1,000. 1,000 is my goal. Subscribe. Tell your friends, your enemies, the lady across the street. I don't care. Just tell everybody that you know to subscribe to this channel. We're doing some fantastic things. We really are. And I need your support. Support me on Patreon. Patreon support starts at $2 a month. That's 50 cents a week. That lets me get lights. And as you can see, I need equipment because who wants to see my back bedroom door? Nobody. I want to get better equipment, and that will help me a lot. You can also visit my official merchandise store. Right now, I just have t-shirts. We will be doing a t-shirt giveaway, not this coming week, but the week after. Follow me on Rumble because, I'm one follower away from being able to podcast live on Rumble. I really want to get into that stream so that tends to be more of a conservative channel, but I definitely want to get a leftist voice on there. So please follow me at Rumble. And second to last, mark your calendars, May the 2nd at 8 p.m. That is a Friday. I am sponsoring a channel fundraiser. I am trying to raise $700. If I had $700, I would not be doing this. So please tune in. We're going to have some type of entertainment. Maybe I'll try my hand at stand-up comedy. I don't know yet. I haven't quite worked it out yet, but be there that night. The link to donate in advance is there. And finally, thanks to Angie Patty for giving me this idea last night. I said I would do this. If you want to be kept update about my schedule for the week or my schedules coming up, just send an email to TRACYMedia LLC at gmail.com and use @me in the subject line. I'll put you on a mailing list that'll go out maybe every other week about what my schedule will be. We're going to finally get started. So I am going to let my guest introduce himself.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Tracy, for having me. I can't promise to be as entertaining as football, but I'm going to do my best to keep people entertained. So I appreciate being the next best thing. My name is Jesse Brown, and I am the City County Counselor for Indianapolis, Marion County, District 13, which is mostly the near east side of Indianapolis. I was elected in 2023, took office January 1st last year, 2024. So I'm now in my 15th month on the job.
And I wanted to do this show, and I know the majority of my viewers do not live in Indianapolis, but I guarantee some of the issues I'm going to bring up are probably happening in your city. And I really want to focus on, more local work. Jesse's pretty much the only one that I know of that's doing the work that I'm more passionate about. I don't really know a lot of other city council people to be interviewing. So immediately I thought, Jesse, he came to the Medicare March that I tried to organize a few years ago. So I'm like, I'll ask him to do this. First question. This is just a general question. What happened to my city? I was born in Indianapolis. I've lived the majority of my life here. I've been here since I'm probably way older than you are. Since 1974. But it's like it used to be just this, you could say hello to people and you didn't even know them. Now it's just different. And I don't know what happened? Like, what happened to our city?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think a whole bunch of things, but I'll tell you a couple starting points for me anyway. So when I first decided to run for office, I'm 39 years old. So I was 38 when I first took office. I'd never thought about being a politician until just a few months before I decided to run. Um, but I first ran for a precinct committee person position in the Democratic Party a year before that. And I did that because I had been living for 15 years already in the house I'm sitting in right now. And I noticed that even though, we had like a super majority Democrats on the city county council, I still didn't have sidewalks. I still didn't have streetlights in my neighborhood. And I live in 46218, which is one of the most impoverished zip codes in the city, actually in the state. So, I happen to be a white person. I'm in the minority of people in this zip code who are my skin color. And I noticed that like Black home ownership in 46218 had gone down over the last 10 years. Life expectancy for all people, but especially Black people, had gone down for the 10 years prior to that. And so, I was like, oh, do we not have any money in this city? But then you look and we've got the Pacers, we've got the Colts, we've got, all these wonderful conventions coming into town. We have Eli Lilly based in town. We have the Simons. We have, just profitable business after profitable business. Cummins is headquartered down the road in Columbus, but they have a huge office presence here. So I was like, how is it that we have all this money and yet none of it seems to be getting invested in the neighborhoods where people most need it? And that's one thing I was frustrated about that caused me to run for office. And I'm sad to say I'm only 15 months in the job, but I haven't fixed it yet. So we still have these same problems that I'm trying to push.
And yeah, I am older than you. I was 12 when you were born.
Okay. Well, hey, that's pretty close. Come on.
That's not close at all. I'm like, I just blinked my eyes and got old all of a sudden. But I want to start with our mayor. Now, I'm going to be honest with everybody watching. I am not a Hawksette fan. I literally am not. I can't. I don't. Let me backtrack this question. I don't understand how a Democratic mayor and a majority Democratic city council seems to get nothing done. It's like, okay, and this is something I didn't understand about Indiana. Does the city of Indianapolis have to ask the state for permission to pass bills?
Yeah, so let's start there, then I'll go back to Hogsett. Well, just real briefly, I'll say I'm the only politician in this whole state who has called for the mayor to resign over the sexual harassment scandal for Thomas Cook.
And we're going to get into that too, guys.
Yep, so we'll get there. But let's go back first and talk about what can the city do without the state's permission. And there's some very real fear by other councilors and even by the mayor that the Republican supermajority in the state house could just come in and kind of kick sand in our faces and stop us from getting anything important or useful done. And they do have a lot of power. They have supermajority status, and so they really could get a lot done, even if it took constitutional changes, which they're capable of passing, and they've done it before. But, last year, this came out into the media, and it was being debated where, Joe Hogsett, our mayor, said to the papers, my strategy during the State House session is to hide and just not make any noise and hope that they get distracted and don't think about Indianapolis. To me, that's not a winning strategy. And that's not a strategy that causes people to come out and vote for you. And if we don't have people in Marion County here in our capital city come out and vote, this is the only real place that there's a Democratic stronghold. But we have like 52%, I think 52 or 54% turnout last year among registered voters. So if we don't ever get that under control, we're never going to take back the state house. So I think that it is very likely that if we try hard and push aggressively to get progressive policy passed, the state house could come in and just preempt us. Like already in this state, we're not allowed to raise the minimum wage. We're not allowed to tell landlords that they have to allow escrow. We're not allowed to ban plastic bags at grocery stores. We're not allowed to build light rail just in this county. So they really have come in and changed laws and stopped us from getting a lot done. But I think we need to be aggressive and push harder, get more policy passed, force them to spend more of their time trying to undo what Indianapolis is doing. Because, if a bully is beating you up every day, you have to fight back or else that's just your life for the rest of the time.
Yeah, that seems highly, and I'm not an edge. I'm not going to say I'm stupid, but that doesn't seem constitutional to me, right? There's something wrong with that doesn't make sense because each city is different. Gary is different from Maryville. Maryville is different from Goshen. Goshen is different from South Bend. South Bend is different from Evansville. So each city has its own particular needs. And you would think the largest city, you know, I know some people in Hamilton County won't like this, but oh well, watch another podcast. Indianapolis is still the largest city in the state of Indiana. The state capital, we're the state capital. If we go down, the rest of you literally stand no chance.
Right.
We're the only city that people can name in our state.
And it's pretty funny. Sometimes the law just, you said that like maybe you're less educated about the law. And the funny thing is common sense would agree with you that it would be unconstitutional for the state to pick on one city. Legal scholars would tell you it would be illegal if the Indiana government said Indianapolis can't do X or Y. So what they do instead is this legal fiction where they invent a new category of cities. It's a first-class city. So they say any first-class cities have these new rules for them. Turns out there's only one first-class city.
There's only one first-class city, I bet. I bet you there's one.
Just one.
Not Fort Wayne. I mean, Fort Wayne has what? Maybe 500,000 people? If that. Yeah, I don't even think they're at 500. We're the only ones I know that have at least 800,000. I think we're close
to a million at this point.
Yeah, we're close to that million mark. I don't think, just surprise. I wonder why that happens. But I want to get to the question because I told you I'm going to be hard. Because to be honest, I will never vote Democrat ever. Never, ever. I just can't because I feel like, especially with Hogsett, you have a super majority city council. Why is it that I can drive, and I live in 46203, which is kind of near Fountain Square, so you would think, oh, they're going to fix that area because it's kind of near. There's holes in my street that are so large, like you could fit a small child in these holes. Easily. And literally, half of our, and please correct me if I'm wrong, half of our city's budget is allocated to law enforcement. If I'm just somewhere around there.
More than that, actually. It's like 47% just for IMPD. But then there's the sheriffs and prosecutors. So yeah.
If our tires get blown out due to terrible road conditions, which the city, I'm like, why don't you address why the roads keeps happening, which would make more sense to me. But hey, I'm just here.
Right.
You would think that a Democratic mayor with nothing to lose, because I feel like Hogsett has nothing to lose. Like, what is the governor going to do? Move the state capital? You're not going to do. You could say you're going to move it to Carmel, but really, you're not. You're not going to move the state capital. Like, so what can you do? I feel like the mayor is in a I can't lose position, but yet he keeps losing. It's like how, like, he snatches defeat from the jaws of victory.
Yep. I love that phrase. I just used it the other day.
And I don't know how I can explain this, but it's like, wait a minute, you're telling me that crime in Indianapolis is this out of control, so out of control, you have to take more than half the budget. Half?
And it's down. Crime is down year over
year. Crime is down.
Like,
isn't crime down?
Right.
I'm so glad you said that because I thought, well, wait a minute, isn't crime down?
Right.
Crime is down.
So the one thing I will say, and again, I'm not a fan of the mayor, even when I first got elected, Jefferson Shreve was running against the mayor, and I think he actually would have been worse. And so I put out flyers and I passed them out in my district that said, vote against Jefferson Shreve. But I did not use Mayor Hogsett's name because I was not going to endorse him. I was not going to tell people to vote for him. I just said, just don't vote for Jefferson Shreve. So that's how much I really have problems with our mayor. But I'll say, if I was to try to imagine his point of view or like where he's coming from and make a good faith read of it, here's what I would say. Indianapolis pays more in taxes than we receive. So we're actually a donor county. So, all the other rural counties actually receive more tax dollars than we do. So we pay more than our fair share. And that is partially because the road funding formula treats every road in the state the same, no matter how many lanes wide it is. So when we have like 38th and Keystone, like an 8-lane by 8-lane road, the state funds that the same as a little country road, 1 lane on 1 lane, crossing. So that's why we don't get enough money for our potholes. But, that's been the case for years and years and years. You have to do something about that, because I get the mayor doesn't want to raise our taxes. I don't want my taxes raised either. But when you have to go to the tire shop every couple weeks because you've lost a tire, you lost a hubcap, you bent a rim, you end up paying all this money anyway, and it doesn't even go to fix the roads. So to me, it ends up being more expensive for people. And I've been lucky. I've had a job for the last several years where it's not like I have to clock in right before 7 minutes or else I get points. I could be a little flexible, work from the tire shop on my laptop or whatever. A lot of people can lose their jobs if they're late to work that often, or if they don't have adequate transportation. So to me, people are running their cars off the road and losing whole axles just because of all the potholes, and it's unacceptable.
And don't make a claim. Oh, don't make a claim. You're not getting that money back. Let me tell you.
What I see was like 97% of the time they deny it. Something like that.
They deny. Don't tell you why. Don't send you a letter. Just deny. You caused the situation. It's your fault. But
right.
But I'm paying taxes for this, and it's very disheartening when you have a candidate so bad in Jefferson Street. I was like in your lane. I'm like, well, I'm not gonna vote for Hawks, but I'm not gonna vote. It felt like, well, why even vote for this? Because and I know my questions aren't making any sense because I'm just I'm absolutely frustrated with what our city is doing, because it's like, again, you have nothing to lose. If you want to say we're going to raise the minimum wage to $8.25, what is the state going to do to you?
Right.
They can make
you. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I mean, well, and to your point, we've seen what happens when you just give people the lesser of two evils to vote for. Is they stop going out to the polls. They stop showing up because they don't think the difference between these two evil or disappointing candidates is enough to be worth standing in line for a couple hours, like you have to do sometimes in this state. And so you have to get people some inspiring, some Bernie Sanders style message that'll really change your life. Otherwise, why would people bother wasting time going up to vote? We've been stagnant in this state for decades, and it's just been Republicans in charge and Democrats kind of limping along, not really building much for so many years. And that's a recipe for disaster, in my opinion.
And I think it's intentional, but we're gonna get to that here in just a moment. Because sure. what I want to know, how can I phrase this question where it makes sense? Because you work with the city council every day, I'm assuming. And then I'm assuming you don't get paid a whole lot to be a city council. I can't imagine the pay is that great.
I think my pay last year was like $29,000. So
yeah, so you have some other job that you're doing.
I'm actually just super broke. I quit my day job, but most counselors have another job because you need it. But I'm lucky enough I don't have any kids, and I bought my house really young, so I can afford to live on like dirt cheap. Thanks to my wife works too, but most people cannot live on that. That's lower than a living wage.
When we did the Medicare for All March 3 years ago, it's been 3 years.
I think that's right. Yeah.
And I was surprised that the mayor passed a resolution. I was literally like, oh, he signed it. Why not take it further?
Right.
And I think that's it. Like, I'm so frustrated because it seems like we aren't even getting crumbs, right?
Right.
We used to get crumbs, but now we're like getting less than crumbs.
Seems about right. Yeah. But who always has enough money is, for example, the big wealthy donor families. So you've probably seen, but they got brand new like land just given to them that was right next to the transit center downtown so that they could build a new training facility for the Fever. They got now a $25 million forgivable loan is going to the Simon family, again, who are billionaires. They I think own $11.5 billion is their personal wealth, but the city's still giving them $25 million loan. How much did we spend on affordable housing in this budget last year? Only $545,000. So we're having 50 times as much money is being given to billionaires as it is being used to help with affordable housing.
And again, I think that's what frustrates me is because growing up, I was like, the Republicans are evil. But it
Mhm.
seems like, oh boy, I forgot to add the Democrats to it, because and you just literally got to what I want to talk about,
Mm.
which I think is a crisis that nobody's talking about, is homelessness in our
Yeah.
city.
Yes.
Is it still illegal to give money to a panhandler?
They made that less. You're not ever really going to get ticketed for it. They tried very hard to put that through. It's been pushed back a little bit. So realistically and functionally, it's not. But it's still, they put up those like fake parking meters where they want you to put money in there instead. And yeah, they do everything they can to discourage any kind
Okay,
of
because I was
help.
really going off about that, because I'm like, well, why don't you? Homelessness is a real problem in Indianapolis.
Massive.
Massive. And it's either the mayor's office is completely stupid and ignoring it, or completely blind and ignoring it, or what I like to think is a combination of both. It can't be ignored. Yet we have strip malls that have they're just sitting there. Why
Yeah,
hasn't there been a proposal to take those strip malls, turn them into housing?
sure.
It's like, I'm saying it. I don't know how to do it. I don't know how that works. And no, Rue, by the way, because I know you're coming, I'm not running for office. I refuse. I refuse. But I'm like, you have these strip malls,
Mm-hmm.
30th and Lafayette Road,
Yep.
Lafayette Square,
Oh,
Lafayette
all
Square,
over.
Washington Square. I mean, we have the city, the Circle Center Mall.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The businesses are leaving every day. We have all these centers, and that's tax money was given to them to build. Now they're gone. But
Right.
homelessness has increased. Why not just put the refurbish them or do whatever
And
and
you will
just
hear
put
people
them
who will
there?
try to talk down to you. They'll try to be like, "Oh, well, you don't understand how development works because, you need a whole bunch of money to do this and the cost to the city and blah, blah, blah." But it's like, you know what? There is a cost to the city to have all these people being homeless, because what we do right now is we have a homelessness unit with IMPD. And so our police officers come and try to provide basically put a Band-Aid on the wound. And then every day they get called back again because the people still are in need. There's still no resources for them. It ends up being much more expensive to treat the problem the way we're treating it. And it's less humane because people are stuck living on the streets. Also, when you look at, there's numbers about, there's 1,700 homeless people in Indianapolis, but it's actually far more than that, because that's not counting people who are living on, auntie's couch, or who live in with grandma, or who just let a friend stay with them on an air mattress or something like that. So that maybe they're literally not in the street just yet, but they certainly do not have their own permanent address. And things are dicey, and every day they have to hope that they don't get kicked out because they could. So the most recent study I saw that was really, really sad to me was about children. It was looking at students in Marion County going to IPS or with the charter schools or even private schools. There are like 4,300, I want to say, students under 18 who are homeless and are still trying to struggle their way through school. And the study, it said what we could all easily guess, which is a lot harder to succeed in school when you're homeless. When you don't have your basic needs met, you're not going to score as high on tests, which means you're going to have a harder time getting a job, which means you're not going to succeed economically, which means you're going to cost taxpayers even more money because you still have to go to the emergency room for healthcare. You don't have Medicare. We don't have private insurance. And so it ends up being way more expensive long term to just let people suffer like this. It would be more fiscally responsible to just build housing and let people live for cheap or for free. So yeah, I could go on all night just ranting about that. It makes me sick.
And I've noticed this too. The city is not building single family homes.
Barely at all.
I see apartments. I must be blind. Something must be wrong with my vision, because I've never seen people go in those apartments, like that one on 22nd and Central, that tall. I've never seen anybody go in there. Never. Now, maybe
Well, it's funny
somebody
because even
lives
though
there, and I've never seen. If you live in there, please tell me, because I don't see cars parked there. I don't see people going in. I just see all of these apartments. And there's nothing wrong with an apartment. But yet and still, we have more houses vacant than we do homeless people.
yeah,
We
and
shouldn't even have a homeless problem. common sense would say, oh, let's, cut the police budget a little bit because they don't need all that they get. They don't. I said what I said. They don't need all of that. And let's address this problem because it makes us a more marketable city if we're doing something to address what I think is, like I said, this is a problem that I never hear anybody talk about.
Yeah. Well, I mean, a lot of my fellow city councilors will tell you that there's like not much that the city could do. And I disagree. Like you said, there's a lot of money. It's just we have it locked up in the wrong departments. And I'm not trying to be anti-police or say that they don't do anything positive for the city, but they just, I mean, so first year officers at IMPD, right now they make 47% more than they did 5 years ago. So in 5 years, first year officers have gotten a 47% raise. And yet we still can't seem to hire enough officers to fill all the need. To me, that's a sign that we're using the police as a tool to try to fix problems that police are not designed to solve.
Exactly.
And we're trying to force them to be spread so thin, and we can't hire enough people to fill the jobs anyway. So that's a model that doesn't work. We have to look at trying to solve problems a different way.
Right. And instead, if we looked at the underlying conditions like lack of jobs and lack of housing, people will do, when you don't have resources, food, water, shelter, you're going to do anything you can to get those. If you address that problem, you wouldn't see. I'm going to start on it. And I don't want to start on it because I'm here to interview you, not for me to go off. Because I just feel like so many things I'm thinking, they're so common sense. And it's like you say that to, I forget the name of my counselor. I forgot that quick. And it's like, I'm just talking to like the door right in front of me. I'm just like, no, listen to what I'm saying.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, it just drives me nuts because there are problems, right? Like, so building buildings is a lot more expensive than it was last year, which is more expensive than it was the year before. Costs are going up. So that's real. It's not like it's just free and easy to create all the housing we need, but that doesn't mean we can't do it. That means we should be going to our constituents and going to the people and saying, okay, so how can we do this? Maybe it's, I think housing is a human right and we deserve houses for everybody. Houses, your own place. But maybe in the short term, while we're building, we at least provide a safe parking lot with security and with showers and with a, heat that you can go into and just a place where you can at least live in your car and be safe and not just be preyed upon, by drug dealers or sexual predators or something like that. Maybe we create tiny homes with, shipping containers or something. None of these things are permanent solutions. Everyone deserves more dignity than that, but at least you could do those today, right? Like all that takes is money and land, and we've got that. So
I can tell you what they could stop doing. Stop loaning billionaires money. That's a really good start right there. A good start would be stop. I mean, I can't get a loan for my business.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, I've been trying to start TRACYMedia Group for at least 2 to 3 years.
Right.
The city isn't like, here, Tracy, start this group so you can hire people. No, we'll give Family Dollar, Walmart money to invest in the community, and 2 to 3 years later, they're gone.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I'm just like, I don't understand why our local government just ignores what I would think is just common sense.
Yeah. I mean, and again, I think that they're like, if the mayor was here or one of his spokespeople, I think what he would say is, now look, it's not fair because the state has some role. A lot of the people who end up being homeless on our streets aren't originally from Marion County. They came here hoping for opportunity and they didn't find it, And so really the state should kick in more. Maybe the federal government should kick in more, et cetera. Rodney's got some good points as well, I see in the chat, but all of that is true. And I still think that most people are good people. We talked about that at the beginning of the show. Things have changed a little bit. People are maybe more afraid, but you look at how people are responding to when you see Bernie Sanders going and touring around the Midwest, or when you see these 50-51 or the Women's March yesterday, when people see like a chance to get out and meet each other and protest and show they want more left-wing policy, they're happy to do that. I think we could easily, like every time IPS has gone up for a referendum to increase taxes to help pay for schools, it's passed by a large margin. People are willing to put their money where their mouths are to help other people, but we have a government that just won't even ask them to put their money where their mouths are.
And I think that's very upsetting for somebody like me that is just like, and I'm not saying this to you, I'm
No,
saying
I
this
know.
to the whole city council plus the mayor. What is y'all there for? Like, your whole job is to serve the public. That's it. We're telling you, hey, this is a problem. But before I get into too much of a rant, because like I said, I'm interviewing Jesse. Jesse is not here to listen to me go on and on and on about this. Don't make no sense. So I'm gonna get to our mayor. Again, I'm gonna be we got some comments. I'm gonna get to the comments. I usually do them about 20 to 25 minutes in, so it's getting close to that time where I'll get to them. But I want to talk about what I understand about what's going on with the mayor. Again, he's bought off. I mean, to be put it bluntly, but he had two staffers or two contracted workers that were accused of sexual harassment. Am I somewhere in the right neighborhood?
Yeah, so it was even worse than that. So he's had, so his top person, his chief of staff for many years, was accused of sexually harassing and sexually abusing a number of women. Like, they went to the media. You can look on Mirror, Indy,
Oh,
or
and you
Indy
can call
Star.
names. We call names on this show.
Oh, sure. So Thomas Cook was his name, and he actually lived in my district. He's a person I met and had a beer with a couple times, not realizing who this person was. But yeah, there's multiple women who have complained that they were his subordinates at work, and he would do things like send them dozens of texts in a row when they wouldn't respond, just would keep harassing them until they would get back to him. He would like show up at their house, try to make sure that they got drunk, just be very pushy and sexually aggressive with them. And when it's your boss, you know, there's power dynamics there. So you can't really consent, or you feel a little nervous about it. So it became a really big pattern with multiple different women, all while he was married, by the way, until the fact that he finally got in trouble. But women had been going to the mayor and going to the Democratic Party leadership, asking for help and saying what was happening for years. And for years, they just buried this. And so when the stories finally broke this last summer, I was the first city councilor to say the mayor needs to resign over this. I've seen enough. You know, this is unacceptable. There's nothing you could say that could excuse this. I'm still the only person 9 months later who has said that. They're still just giving it a chance and working it through the system. The council did create an investigative committee. So we have lawyers who are like looking through documents and subpoenaing records and just trying to see what he knew and how deep the cover up goes. I asked to serve on that committee, but they said that I was too biased against the mayor, so they wouldn't let me serve on it, even though I'm one of the only Democratic city councilors who didn't take money from the mayor. So that was a big problem. But then, like you said, I mean, I see Rodney mentions they serve their owner donors, right? And I think that's the problem as well. So our mayor promised that he would only be a 2-term mayor. He thought that was the only thing that was appropriate, changed his mind, ran, and now he's in his 3rd term. And now he's still raising money for himself and not giving it to other Democrats. He's just putting it in a chest so he can sit on a big pile of gold like a dragon, hoarding it. So last year, he raised $800,000 just for himself. We had a Democrat on the ballot for governor. We had Democrats running hard races all over the state. He gave basically no money to any of those people and just kept it for himself, even though theoretically he's never running for office again. So yeah, how deep is my love?
He's got bigger goals, but I'm going to talk about that too.
Absolutely. Yeah, now I have to stop ranting, right? I'll let you ask a question.
So it's 25. Well, it's 34. See, that's what happens when you don't wear your glasses. I thought that was a 2. That's actually a 3. So we're going to check in on some comments here. Rodney. Rodney, I don't want to mess up the last name because I know I will. So we're going to just say Rodney, and I hope you're not offended by that. Number 1 cause of crime. Absolutely. That's what I'm saying. The number 1 cause of crime is poverty. If we solve poverty, we wouldn't need police. I hope the IMPD is not getting militarized weapons. I hope, but I know I would hope that we wouldn't turn into that, but that's my fear, that it'll be a cop city here soon. Okay, but Rodney, if you haven't already, please subscribe. Cousin Nelson says, while there are homeless people and the government the government allocates each state a certain amount to aid for the problem. but it depends on those in office and how much of that money ends up in their pockets.
Oh, I got some stuff to say about that, if you don't
Go
mind.
ahead.
So a lot of the money that the federal government provides to each state and each city is through housing and urban development, right? HUD. And they go through your local housing agency. And so our local housing agency in Indianapolis is the IHA, Indianapolis Housing Agency. I've had multiple people who work for the federal HUD tell me IHA is the worst run public housing agency in the country. The worst they've ever seen. And we had to last year go into federal receivership because it was so badly managed. And we hoped that the feds would take over and help us make things better. Now under Trump, it seems like a lot of that money is going to be cut off anyway. But interestingly enough, there's supposed to be Section 8 vouchers that help people avoid homelessness and get, more affordable housing. And IHA last year had 1,700 vouchers that they failed to give out to anybody because they were so poorly managed. And what did I say earlier? How many homeless people did we count? 1,700. So literally, we had housing vouchers for everybody who needed one. And yet, because of bad management, we couldn't actually get them out the door and into people's hands so that they could get housing secured. So that's a huge, huge part of the homelessness problem.
That type of thing, and I use this phrase, I've been using it all weekend, irks my nerves. I'm going to say, how stupid can you be? If you say we have 1,700 people and we have 1,700 vouchers, problem solved. You just solved the problem. Well, you didn't solve the problem because you have people couch surfing or whatever.
Sure.
Okay, but you've solved a big chunk of it.
Yep.
Right. You've addressed, you're just sitting there on 1,700 vouchers and you're not giving them away. What in the entire world?
Tracy, they didn't have a working phone system for, I want to say, like 18 months. They couldn't even get their phones up and running because tech problems, they said. I've had tech problems. I used to work in IT, so I know what tech problems are like. I never had tech problems that kept my phones offline for 18 months. I just don't understand how things could be that bad.
Now, are these people appointed or do they have to go through, they see a position and then they apply for it?
So it used to be that there were appointments to the IHA board. Because of the federal receivership, now the federal government is the only one who gets a say, and they just appoint one person. They don't really have much local tie, which is what I don't like, but at least it stops it from being corrupt or just being somebody's buddy,
That is insane that you're 18 months.
I could be getting some of those details wrong, so don't take that,
more than a week.
Look it up.
I can see a day of phone, one day, but you're talking about at least a minimum of 7. You're sitting on 1,700 vouchers that people need, and you're just okay, we'll sit on them.
There were landlords too who wanted to be participating in the Section 8 program, but then even people who had vouchers, landlords would say, okay, I need my payment for these. I've got 10 tenants who are on Section 8. That means IHA, you're supposed to give me the money that represents your share of it. And they would be 6 months behind on paying these landlords. And so landlords would say, I have to pay my property tax bills. I have to pay my maintenance bills. I can't afford to keep doing Section 8 if you're not going to pay me on a regular basis. So I guess I no longer participate in Section 8. So
and now those people are homeless.
Yep, right, exactly. And a lot of the landlords, they've gone to the media with their full name and just said, look, I'm not an evil person. I don't want to kick people out. But I also, if I don't get the bills paid, I'm going to have to kick everybody out because I won't be able to keep the building up. So, yeah, it's really bad. It's really bad.
See, now I'm trying not to be mad because, I got a no cussing rule on my show. And today, I might break my own rule. This is definitely incompetence. This is incompetence to the next level. You're just, what do you do with the vouchers? What are you doing with them? Are you selling them? I have to come up with these crazy ideas because it sounds like this group isn't doing their job. It just sounds like they're just okay. So I'm like, are you raffling them off? Before I got my home, I applied for Section 8 like a dummy. Didn't get a letter. I didn't even connect it. I didn't get a letter. And they kept saying they were months and months behind. Oh my gosh.
That's
Now
why.
everything you just said makes sense.
That's exactly what you were probably experiencing. They were months behind. And I know some good
Oh,
people who work there, and I know they were trying, but their computer systems got hacked twice in 3 years. And so then they were literally doing things with a pad of paper, right? Trying to just do modern work on a housing agency scale without computers because they were all hacked and locked out of their systems so many times. So that's part of it. But I'm like, maybe I'm just tooting my own horn too much, but I feel like I could do it with paper if I had to,
if you
like
have to. I mean, it's better than 1,700 people not having housing. Or
yeah, I don't
okay.
understand.
I mean, you could just save the paper copy, and then when the system starts working,
Yeah,
pay somebody
I'm
to
sure
do
I don't
some
understand
temporary.
all the details. I'm sure it's harder than I understand, but even still, like it's unacceptable that it went on for month after month after
It's
month. At a certain point, you have to like go outside and start screaming and get the media in and just say, look, like I'm not going to keep sitting here quietly while people are going homeless. Like somebody has to do something. Again, ask Eli Lilly, ask the Simons, ask any of these big foundations that have plenty of money, and just ask them, help us, save these people's lives, right?
They serve their owner donors exactly. Oh, this is what you're reading. Nelson said, "How deep is your love?" Rodney says, "Subscribe." Thank you. I'm a real progressive, Steve. Yes, you watched my other one. I did this. I interviewed Steve Grumbine at
Oh,
2
cool.
today, talking about MMT, which I was like, I don't know
Oh,
about
awesome.
it.
I'll have to check that out. I want to learn more
Yeah,
about modern monetary theory. Yeah.
yeah. Thank you for watching, Rodney. I appreciate that. Thank you for subscribing. Withholding these vouchers, it's a crime. It literally should be. We're I know Steve may scream me for saying our tax dollars, but I'm talking about at the local level, not the federal level. Our money is going to support these local agencies, and we can't do it. Yes, there's something you can do. If you have to go paper, it's not ideal.
Right.
But oh well, go back to your primary school days and learn how to print and do cursive writing. I don't know what to tell you. I just know we should not have 1,700 vouchers just sitting there, not serving the people that we need.
Right. And I don't know, my wife and I were talking about that recently as well, Rodney, where, everyone can look at like Luigi Mangione and you hear people say, oh, well, that's violence and violence is never acceptable. And it's like, well, is it never acceptable? Because surely it is violent to force 4,500 children in Indianapolis to be homeless, in the richest country that's ever existed on the face of the earth. Surely it's
Exactly.
violent when homeless people freeze to death, which has happened multiple times this year already in 2025. That is violence, right? That is people choosing to hoard wealth and just become billionaires, which shouldn't even exist, rather than use that money for the common good. So I agree with you. It's violent to treat people this way.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And again, we don't condone violence on this channel
No,
because
no,
YouTube.
no, no. That's not what I was saying at all.
Yeah,
But
I know
but
you were, but I just gotta always say, like, oh, wait a minute, because they took down another video of mine. I'm like, look, I was not condoning violence, but back to the mayor with he can't seem to hire men to keep their hands to themselves.
mhm.
Is this going? Is you said that Thomas Cook? That's under investigation now. But
Yep.
there's another case, if I'm not
So there's
wrong.
multiple through the mayor's office. There were multiple other people who were fired, or who maybe one of them actually wasn't even working with the mayor's office anymore, but he stepped away from a foundation that he went to because it was so toxic. So, Matt Pleasant and Rusty Carr were two names of people who they confirmed were, like because of allegations of sexual impropriety or treating subordinates in a sexual way that was totally inappropriate. They were basically no longer welcome in the mayor's office. But that's at least 3 people who've been named just in the last couple of years. And that's not getting into, I mean, when it's one person, you might have a bad apple, but when it's your chief of staff, that's too close to home. When it's 3 different people and 3 highly ranking people, that's a culture problem at that point. That means that, anybody who wants to do it seems to be allowed to get away with it.
And now I'm starting to see, because you used the word cover up. And I don't want to be a conspiracy theorist. I'm not one of those. But at some point, you have to, I would think it'd be beneficial for the mayor to say, hey, look, sexual harassment, we don't tolerate it. You're fired. and you're going to pay for the full extent of the law. That's what I would think.
Sure.
But unless I'm missing something, I haven't heard the mayor say too much about any of these cases.
No, they've done
unless
a
I'm
little
just
bit.
missing it, unless I'm just like not paying any attention.
There's been a couple things he has done, but mostly it's been because the media and the city council kind of forced him to. So one of them, they now at least have an anonymous reporting tool where you can report without having to go through HR. You could say, hey, something's wrong here. But what they found out was in the first 17 days, because it just finally went live in January. And what we found out was in the first 17 days that tool was open, there were 17 reports. So it averaged a report a day. Not all of them necessarily had to do with sexual harassment. It could have just been like abusive behavior from your boss or something like that. But that's a lot. Like the city government is not that huge. It's not like we are, AT&T or some national company where, maybe one little division has one report a day. The city government is not that huge, and it had way, way too many reports. And I got to remember, just because someone reports it doesn't make it true. There is such a thing as due process. Maybe somebody just has a grudge against their boss or something like that. But 17 people, right after we know of 3 other men who we know did enough bad things that they were kind of cut off. To me, there's too much smoke for there not to be a fire there.
Exactly, because I'm thinking that to me says a lot about the mayor. And now it makes sense because I kept saying, why is Jesse talking about the mayor needs to resign? Because what I couldn't understand, and maybe you can explain this to me, because now I'm playing devil's advocate in my mind, him resigning means what?
So that's a good point. So if he resigns, there's zero chance that a Republican gets that seat right now. So what happens if he resigns is they go to they go to precinct committee people of the Democratic Party, and those people would select a new mayor. So people would just say, hey, I'm interested in running for office. It's not super democratic because there's only, we just had a reorganization meeting for the Marion County Democratic Party, and I think only 405 people showed up. So even if on paper there's supposed to be 1,600 people who would get to vote, realistically, it'd probably be settled by just 400, maybe 500 votes. So that's not very democratic, but at least it would mean it would pick a Democrat. So it wouldn't be a Republican. It wouldn't be, some right winger or libertarian or Jefferson Shreve type. It would be somebody who impresses the Democratic precinct committee people of this city. So they would just basically have a special little mini election for that.
Here comes my 2 questions. One, why couldn't the public reelect them? That makes taking it away from the public when you have Democrat in your name, it's in the name of your party, it would seem more democratic to me to say, hey, and we're, the mayor hasn't resigned, so we're not breaking any news. If he just said, yeah, I'm tired of this, I'm resigning today, let the public decide. If you get a low voter turnout, we let the public decide. Having it precincts, I'm not a Democrat, so it doesn't, nobody's gonna care what I think. But look, I can't even say anything. I'm like, huh?
Yeah, it feels a little gross, right? Yeah, I agree. And so to be fair, the state law is what forces us to do it this way. But I haven't heard any Democrats complaining about the state law because I think it serves their interests because they don't want people like you who aren't part of their party to be able to have a voice in this state. They want you to be forced at gunpoint to choose Republican or Democrat. And those are your only options. And nope, I don't care if you don't like either of them. You still have to pick one. Otherwise, your vote basically gets thrown away because that's kind of how it works in this state. And they like it that way because as long as they can always be the lesser of two evil and you can't really find another option, then, they don't really have any strong incentive to change. And then they can just be a race to the bottom. But in this state also, the one thing the Democrats have done well that I'll praise them for is they've been pushing back against. We also don't have ballot initiatives in this state. So you look at California or even Ohio or Kansas and all these places that protected abortion rights, and they did it through ballot initiatives. There's no such thing as ballot initiatives in Indianapolis or in Indiana. It has to come through the state legislature, and they're never going to ask us about things like legalized marijuana or abortion or anything that they know is popular because they just don't care what the people think, and they prefer us not to have our voice. So it's not just the Democrats' fault. It's definitely Republicans as well, but I think Democrats should be making a lot more noise and demanding more public check-ins, whether they are referenda or ballot initiatives or special elections when need be. Because I agree, there's too much that's done behind closed doors by the party insiders.
And we're going to get to this. I got to talk about you being removed, not being removed, but
No, remove. Go
disinvited
ahead.
to your
Yeah.
own party. Now, here's how I would take it. And I'm not a Democrat. I don't like the Democrat. I'm going to be 100% honest. If I ever voted Democrat again, it would literally shock me because I can't even imagine, unless we get to the point I'm going to get to a little bit later, me voting Democrat. But for your party to remove you for something that I think that you were 100% right. Can you tell our audience what that situation, because I could describe it, but you actually went through it. So I want you to describe exactly what happened.
Sure.
And go from there.
Yeah. So I haven't technically been kicked out of the Democratic Party yet, but I was kicked out of the Democratic caucus.
The caucus. I said party. Sorry, caucus.
It's okay. No, everybody gets that wrong, and everybody is confused about what does that actually mean. And so it's a difficult thing to talk about because anytime somebody says, thank you, Rodney, I see that comment. Every time somebody says, now I just lost my train of thought because I was too busy laughing at Rodney. Right. So every time people say, or anytime a politician will tell you their side of the story, you should always go and check and see what the other side of the story is, right? Including me. Don't trust me. Look for the other side as well. But in this case, they haven't ever shared the other side. The other Democrats on the caucus put out a statement that doesn't even use my name. And it just says, there are people who were being misleading and not honest. And so apparently they're trying to call me a liar, but they won't even say what it is exactly that I lied about. And so behind closed doors, what they told me was, well, we really don't like your social media. You embarrass us too much by calling out Democrats. And we really just don't like you were pushing for a ceasefire resolution for Gaza. And even though 80% of Democratic voters agree with you, we don't. And so we don't want you to even bring that up. And that's embarrassing to us.
They get money from APAC? Oh, shut up, Tracy.
Yeah, right. No,
shut up.
You said it, not me, but you're 100% right. But so the last thing that happened, they were mad at me since the beginning. So it's not like, this came out of the blue. But the last thing that happened is there were Democratic city county councilors who were taking a bunch of money, a bunch of right-wing money, to try to kill public education in favor of charter schools instead. And they were, literally standing with Republicans in front of the state house, calling for the state to destroy IPS if IPS didn't give away resources. IPS is Indianapolis Public Schools for people out of Indiana. They were trying to destroy IPS if they didn't give away a bunch of resources to charter schools. And then they started texting my constituents with this scammy looking text saying, stop the state takeover. The only way to stop the takeover is to tell IPS to just give away the resources. So that's kind of like a mugger saying, hey, the only way that you could stop from getting shot is just to give me your wallet without a fight. So I had big problems with that. I asked the city county councilors whose names were on this text message, hey, do you deny that you had something to do with this? Because this is really inappropriate. We have a kind of standing agreement. You don't go into somebody else's district messing with their constituents, trying to push for policies you want that their counselor does not want. They didn't deny it. And so all I did was make a Facebook post saying, hey, I suspect that the people named in this text had something to do with it. And when I asked them privately, they didn't deny it. So now here I am asking them publicly. Apparently that was a bridge too far. And so they expelled me from the caucus on a vote of 13-6. I'm still a counselor. I still have all the rights and powers of a counselor. They tried to remove me from all of my committee assignments. But literally 60 of my constituents showed up at the meeting where they tried to do that and just kind of got into the room and just watched them. And they felt uncomfortable enough that they decided not to go forward with it. And so they did not remove me from any committees. But to this day, the Democrats are the only ones who get to choose how many committees everyone sits on. That's totally in their power. There's 3 votes. They have 2 out of the 3. So that they have a 2/3 majority. They can get whatever they want done in committee assignments. They have chosen from the day I got into office to give Republicans, each and every Republican has at least 6, some of them 7 committees. I've only ever had 3. And the only reason they told me that about why is because I call myself a socialist and because they don't like me and they don't trust me yet. So what does that tell you? They're literally like Republicans twice as much as they like somebody who stands with his constituents and stands with the people.
And I have a thought. I can bet you I can bet my paycheck that I won't have coming up because it's going towards my mortgage, that some of those city councilors look a lot like me. I'm almost certain. I'm so, and he knows the one that I'm talking about, the president. Okay, see, I'm trying to be good on my own podcast where I said call names, vibe opposite. See, I don't see because I'm not scared of you. Do Bob for it's you're supposed to be on the same team, right?
Right.
Wouldn't like who? I can't even get my question right because that makes you have every right as a city. You're not their city council. You have constituents that have said, "Hey, we want Jesse to represent us."
Exactly.
How did they give
as a socialist? They knew who I was, you know.
And I think that's it. That's it. That's it right there, right? Because if they're taking money, and I said AIPAC money, and I'll say AIPAC money, and I'll stand on what I said. AIPAC, I am more, as a Christian, I am more Jewish than AIPAC. They are now here advocating for Jewish people. They are not. Don't fool yourselves.
That's right.
They want a Zion. It's the difference between Judaism and Zionism, but this is not that show to get into that type of discussion.
Sure.
I didn't realize that they were buying influence at the city level. I just thought, oh, it's at the federal level, and that's where they're concentrating. You just gave me a whole lot to be like, they're going to the cities now?
And I don't even know. Here's the sad part, Tracy, is I don't even know that they've actually given money to anyone, but I think that other counselors hope that they might, and so they want to get on their good side early. That's what I think is going on.
Or they are AIPAC influenced, or like, right. Oh, please give me money. I think the mayor is throwing money to run for governor. I said what I said because you got $800,000.
Right.
Brom isn't the most popular governor at all. Even Republicans I'm talking to, people are like, no, he's not it. That's what I think. I could be totally wrong. So I'm going to ask you this question, and I promised I was going to ask it. Why don't you run for mayor?
Well, thank you. I'm actually super, super honored that about 100 people have asked me that at this point and think that I should. Unlike the mayor, I have not just been raising money to sit it in a bank. I have raised money, but I've spent it all as I've raised it. I raised money and then I spent it to hire Bernie Sanders' former Canvas directors to come into town and put together a Google Drive. I'll find the YouTube link and I'll put it in the chat for anybody to see if they want. We created this awesome free Google Drive of all my best tips on how to run for office. So every time I raise money, I spend it. I've raised money and then I spent it trying to beat a couple bad Republicans, and I supported some Democrats who aren't socialists and aren't my values, but at least were better than the Republicans, and I tried to help them. So it takes a lot of money to run for mayor. I don't have that money. So far, I'm very blessed that I have not even had to ask any organization for money, and I haven't taken a single dime from an organization. It's all small, unique individual donors. I think that's how politics should run. I think I would probably have to make some compromises about that if I ran for mayor, and I don't know exactly how I feel about that or how my constituents would feel about that. I also know that there are some good people who are much more traditional Democrats than me, but are still actually care about their constituents and have good ideas and are energetic, who I know of who are running for mayor that I'd love to support. So thank you. That's very kind. And I just think it's probably not yet the right time, although I'm really honored that you would ask that.
Because I'm like, you literally are pretty much the only Democrat, because I call you softy.
Sure.
That I would be like, okay, you're not my council person, but I wish you were. Like no, I'm not going to move to the 46218. No, I'm not. Because I'm happy for 46203.
Sure.
But if you were my councilman, I would be way better off because I would have somebody say, hey, look, I'm concerned about this, and this. I feel like I'm just talking into a vacuum where it's just like sucked in and never pushed out. And I think, Hogsett is not my favorite.
No.
I don't like the games that he plays. Like I said, he literally snatches defeat from the jaws of victory. He's incompetent. And I think you would just be a far better candidate. But maybe you can convince me that there's another Democrat, but I had to ask it. Here comes the second question I have to ask, because as an independent voter, I'm going to ask it. Why the Democratic Party? This party is feckless, spineless, motionless, stupid, racist, xenophobic. Every negative word that I can associate with is the Democratic Party. This party literally will say, well, vote for us because we're not as bad as the other guy, but you're still bad. Why in the entire world would you stay with a party that I'm just like, no, leave them. Tell them to go off. And I know you're DSA, and that's a slight difference, but it's still, Democrat is still the D part of it.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're Democratic Socialists, so that's that. I mean, there's a lot of DSA members who agree with you, and I have friends and comrades who would never ever vote for Democrats. So I'm kind of the. So even back, so in high school, I had dreadlocks down to here. That's right. I had nasty white boy dreadlocks. I was straight edge vegan. So I was, anarchist, I called myself. But even then, when I was in high school, was 2003, 2004 was when I was a junior and a senior. And that was when the Iraq War was happening. And so I held my nose and I voted for John Kerry, even though I hated John Kerry. But you know what he wasn't? Is George W. Bush. And so I tried to do harm reduction, and I've always voted Democrat my entire life, just because I didn't see much chance of any third party actually winning. And the older I've gotten, the more I've looked at Indiana Constitution. The Democratic Party's power is kind of preserved in the state constitution. It's very difficult to run as a third party candidate and win. And so there are a lot of problems with the Democratic Party. There are a lot of problems with the Democratic Party. And I don't think that it can ever actually confront Republicans, and especially not these like MAGA brand fascist Republicans. I don't think we'll ever win until we get rid of the donors, get rid of the billionaires, and become an actual people's party. And I don't see that happening anytime soon, but we need to fight for it. And what I've been doing is I've been saying, look, I care about my constituents. I don't take big money from donors. I will always stand up and do the brave thing and fight for justice and not make the powerful people happy, and instead care only about making the people happy. And isn't that a Democrat? You tell me, Democrats, why aren't you like me? What's different about us? And I'm forcing them to answer that question. And what my goal is to say, which side are you on? Are you on the side of the people? Are you on the side of the working classes, or are you not? And I want them to answer that question, because I know where I'm at, and I call myself a Democrat. So at the end of the day, what I think is probably going to happen is they're going to kick me out of the party. But when they kick me out of the party, I want to be able to say, this isn't because I quit you. This isn't because I ever said I wasn't a Democrat. I am one. So tell me what exactly I'm doing that is against the Democratic Party platform, right? Because in our state, the Democrats say that they support public education. And yet they didn't seem to have any problems when city councilors from the Democratic Party were standing next to Republican Mayor Ballard saying we want to destroy public education. That wasn't a deal breaker. But somehow it's a deal breaker when I listen to my constituents and do what they want. So tell me exactly why that is. And so I think the party is going to split in half. I don't know if you've seen this, but there was an opinion poll that came out just within the last week that showed, they asked Democrats, like Democratic voters, what do you think of Democrats' strategy in fighting against President Trump and stopping his agenda? 40% of people said, what strategy? We don't think there is a strategy.
I was going to say, they have a strategy? Where's it at?
24%, so that was 40%. 24% said, we think you have a strategy, and it's worse than if you had no strategy at all. So that is 64% of Democratic voters absolutely hate what the Democratic Party is doing at the federal level. So that can't stand. I talked to a lot of Democrats who think that all you have to do is just wait, because in 2 years, people will be so upset with Trump, then we'll just be back into power. And I just don't see that happening. I think that we have to actually start fighting for the people, fighting alongside the people, or else we'll be irrelevant. So what I can promise you is I will always be fighting with the people and fighting for the people. And I'm going to keep using the word Democrat as long as they let me use it. And when and if they kick me out, that's not going to change what I do in one bit. And at that point, I'm not going to stop running for office either. So I'll continue to run as a Democrat as long as they'll have me. And if they choose not to, that will just probably mean fewer Democrats elected. It won't mean that I stop fighting, right? So.
Now, I have a whole bunch of problems with the answer you just gave, so I'm going to be transparent. One, please. I think third parties don't win because the uniparty, that's what I call them, the uniparty, is constructed to win. But look how many, I gather, everybody that subscribes to my channel knows, I voted for Dr. Cornel West as president. Literally, I went to the polls, I voted for him, turned around, went home because I was like, I don't see nothing else to vote for. That's all I went to vote for because I was like, Governor, I literally don't care because I didn't know. I knew Brom was an idiot, which I was pretty much right about that. I didn't know enough about the Democratic candidate and me voting Libertarian. That wasn't going to happen.
Right.
And no kind of fairy godmother land was that going to happen. But I say that is because the Uniparty makes it hard for us, right? We got to have 36,973. And yes, I still know that number. The Green Party, for example, gathered 50,000 signatures, and they threw out just enough that they didn't make birth. Right. So you're right. It's hard for a third party candidate to make it win, but I think the conditions are there to make sure that we don't win. Because we have the people agree with us. I'll say it. People agree with more of my leftism than probably yours. Because I'm like $28 minimum wage right off the top.
100%.
But I didn't know you agreed with that. So now you told me something.
Easily.
I'm like, okay. Yeah. But I mean, I'm not saying, well, I'm going to say you, but I'm talking about the whole Democratic Party. You know, there's a difference between me and a Democrat. A Democrat will say, vote for the Harris-Walz ticket. I will say, ain't no way I'm going to support genocide. I don't care what you say. I don't care how you do it. I don't care. No.
I wrote in Bernie Sanders for president this last year.
Now, you know, you threw away your whole ballot. You really, you literally could have wrote in Dr. West.
Yeah, I could have. I want to make sure nobody can accuse me of not being a real Democrat and have a leg to stand on.
But your vote is private. So, you know,
that's true.
So I'm gonna be like,
but I'm not good at lying. I'm not good at lying or hiding things. I will always tell the truth, even if it makes people upset.
Yeah, because I'm like, you threw away your whole ballot.
Well, the other races still count. They just ignore the Bernie Sanders.
One, right? Yeah. And you know, my opinion of Bernie, I'm like, dude, you just really dude, come on, sell out Sanders, really for real. Because I feel like he's doing that tour to get people back in the Democratic Party. Yeah, I say when I say I said what I said, I'll say what I said, and I don't really.
The one thing I think that it could do positively is scare Republicans into not supporting Trump's agenda because they see how many angry people there are. But I have been extremely disappointed that he's said, yeah, it's not me, us. But then I was like, but who's the us? Who's the us? What is this movement? What is this organization? Personally, I wish he told people to join DSA because that's the biggest socialist organization in the country. I think that's where we go from here. But if he wanted to say, you know, Green Party, or if he wanted to say something else, any vehicle for organizing, I think, is better than no vehicle. And it can't just be like a cult of personality. So I agree with you. Even though I love Bernie, I've been pretty disappointed in a lot of the things of this recent tour. So,
and I think, you know, even on a local level, we just have a bunch of sellouts who primarily look like me.
No, it's both. It's both. It's
no, but I'm saying this for a reason because unabashedly, the one thing I will never back down off of is I'm a Black American. So I'm always going to look through the scope of, not that I don't care about white people. That's dumb. No, I do. But I'm looking through the scopes of what do people that look like me in positions say, right? When I hear a VOP obviously say, yeah, you know, charter schools are great. No, they're not. Right. No, they're not. Who is paying you? Who owns you? Yes, I said who owns you about a Black city council person. I said what I said and I won't back down. Who owns you? I can literally look at Jesse and say nobody owns him.
That's right.
So nobody owns him.
Two things about that. So you mentioned how the Uniparty tries to stop third parties from being successful and doesn't stand with the people all the time. And here you're 100% right. Here's one local example is every 10 years, they do a redistricting on the city level, just like they do on the state level. So when it came time for redistricting and the Democrats have a supermajority, there was a strong movement saying, hey, you should make it an independent, citizen-led redistricting. So it's not political, right? It's not you're just trying to make sure you get more Democratic seats. You should make it independent. They refused. They didn't do that. Instead, they chose only Democratic insiders to redraw the council boundaries. And you know what they did? is they gave more seats to the Republicans so that they could protect important seats like VOPs. But here's the hilarious thing. The other seat that they protected for important people was Zach Adamson's. And that's the guy I ran against and beat. So they actually created a perfect district for progressives that then I took over and took it away from a more mainstream Democrat. So that's the one hilarious thing. The second hilarious thing, you mentioned who owns them. So I helped create this project that Central Indiana DSA is doing. We've had 70 volunteers work on this. It's a project called Who Owns Indianapolis? And it's looking at exactly what you're talking about. It's looking at the campaign finance reports. It's figuring out who are the big donors, how are they pulling the strings, how much money does it cost to buy a politician in this city. And so we're coming up with one nice spreadsheet that everyone's going to have access to. And then we're going to come up with a bunch of cool graphics to make it easy to see who exactly is buying power in this city. So I just want to give a quick shout out because I'm really proud of that project.
Yeah, because I'm just like, Jesse, why? Why? I get why. At one level, I get it. But then on the other, Tracy, if Tracy's in office, and again, rude by the way, I'm not running for office. There's some people, because I told you I have mouth issues. I say exactly what I think. I don't filter it. And I literally don't care if I hurt your feelings. Oh, well, let your feelings be hurt. Boo-hoo. I don't care. But this is going to sound hypocritical. I think we need more people like that, right? It may not be me. Doesn't have to be me. But I think we need more people like Jesse in office to say, hey, we got a homeless problem here. Instead of giving away $25 million loans, why don't we refurbish that strip mall at 30th and Lafayette Road as temporary housing, and then let's build up the homes, because again, we have more houses than homeless people. Why don't we do that? Why don't we cut 10% of IMPD's budget? It's not like crime is out here running amok. I can see we were, in New York City, Los Angeles, California. We're not.
No.
We're one of the smaller, large cities, if that's making any sense to anybody out there. We need more voices like that. I just have enough common sense to know I'm not one of them.
Well, everybody's got their role to play, and I don't have a YouTube channel, so at least you're holding it down over here, right?
Right. And I'm just like, but why? You could do so much. I think you could do so much more. I'm like, because I'm like right there. But that's a you decision. I can't make your decision. But you know what? Because I have to be honest with what I think. The Democratic Party is trash. They are trash. I already knew the Republicans were trash because they literally told me, hey, we don't even want you to vote. We're gonna make you as a Black person renew your voters' rights. So I already knew they didn't care about me. But now I got these clowns over here with these on their names telling me that charter schools are good. Are you serious? You're talking about making the largest school district in the state share its resources. For what reason?
And they know, behind closed doors, what they'll say is what this will do is kill IPS. And that's what they want.
That's what they want. But why kill it? We need strong, when I hear our governor, I'm going to do a whole video on why that. Oh my goodness. Talking about eliminating property taxes. I'm like, well, how are we going to pay for schools?
Right. Libraries, everything. Yeah.
How are people going to read? And I wish I was a better communicator, because I'm like, people think about this. People say that my taxes are too high. Actually, I'm going to say unpopular opinion. They're probably not high enough.
Right. Yeah.
Because of the things you say you want. You want roads, you want schools. Those things, police officers, fire department, those things cost money. You're going to have to part with it somewhere. So I'm going to be one of these ones to say you probably not tax as much as you should, because I look at European countries.
Sure.
Oh, my goodness. I'm like, I want to move. I'm just like, healthcare, education, free. I'm like,
because that's the thing is, when you have a free at the point of service, and I know you know this, I know you set up the March for Medicare for All, but Medicare for All is cheaper actually than the current system we have. You pay more in taxes, but then you pay less because you don't pay healthcare premiums and you don't have to pay copays and you don't have to worry about any of that stuff. So it's cheaper, saves you more time, so you have more time in your day. So yeah, maybe your taxes would go up, but what you get in return for what you pay would be way, way higher. And it's just a better deal for working class people.
Watch my video on MMT that I did earlier today, because I asked that specific question, because we could actually pay for MMT without raising taxes.
All right. I'll have to check that out for sure.
But I get what you're saying, because if you think about my least favorite legislator, Marjorie Taylor Greene, she literally said government workers don't need jobs. Okay, then quit.
Yeah,
okay,
right. You first.
Exactly, you first. But people think like that, right? People think, oh, this is all I get. This is the best I can do. Indianapolis, we could do so much better. All we have to do is get a mayor. I say Jesse, but Jesse says it's not his time, and I'll be curious who it is he supports and look into
Andrea Humley, real quick. I think State Senator Andrea Humley would make a very good mayor, and I think she's going to run. So,
okay, thank you for giving me a name. So I have to look and see where her money coming from and where she feels.
And let me know if you disagree, but that's where I'm at right now. So,
okay, so you gave me a name, so now I know to look it up.
Yep.
But we need to. And it's not that big a shift, right? We already know Indianapolis should be able to determine its own minimum wage. We should not have to be going to the state. Again, that just doesn't sound right to me, that we got to go state. Oh, please let us do. No, that's not like common sense tells me that is not how the way it works. Common sense tells me we shouldn't be paying for a soccer stadium when we have people freezing to death. We know the priorities. We know what needs to be done. Indianapolis, y'all know I love my city. That's why I've never left. I've been here, 51 years? Yeah, I just told my age. 51 years? I don't really want to live anyplace else. I don't want to live, well, I keep saying I want to live in Cuba, but that's like a far off dream. But
I really want to visit at the very least. I want to learn more about everything they do.
Yeah, I do too. I'm just like, oh, dang on trade embargo. Messing with a country that don't be messing with. They didn't even do nothing to us.
I know.
But I want my city, because I feel like this is my city, so I'll say my city.
100%.
To be better. What we have now is terrible. We should not have homelessness. We should not have children coming to school hungry. We should not have people panhandling in the streets. Those people need jobs. We need to bring jobs, create jobs, not pay some big corporation tax money to come in and then leave 2 years later. We need to create jobs, Jamborees, Waffle Shack. I don't know. I'm just naming something. Take that money, invest it in the small businesses, which everybody knows grow. That's what we need to do. And no, I'm not running for office, because I know I'm sounding real politician-y right now, but no, it's not going to happen.
No, but you're right, though. Or we could even think bigger, and we could look at, like, what did FDA do, right? We could come up with the Indianapolis Civilian Conservation Corps and just, like, give people work actually cleaning up fixing potholes, right? Give everybody a bucket and a shovel and let them fix some of the potholes. Like, we have people looking for work. Why not pay them to actually do the work we need? What if we had people walk around cleaning up the trash that's everywhere in all of our parks? What if we had people try to maintain things and plant landscaping and wildflowers, plant food trees, right? So that people could have more access to food just when they're walking around the city. There are things that people could do that would make it a healthier, more vibrant city. It's just all they need is the authority and the money, and we could do that.
Community gardens. I mean, how many food deserts are we? I think there's like one store around the corner that never has anything. So I got to get in my car, go across town, go to the store. How many food? Have a community garden. There you go. Something real simple.
Right.
A community garden, something. But I want to see my city be the city it was when I was a child. And I know I was a child a long time ago in a land far away. But we've got to do better. That's what I'll say. I'll leave it there. So Jesse, I've taken up so much of your time, and I didn't mean to do it.
It's a pleasure.
This is, I'm just so glad I got to talk to you. Tell us how we can follow you, where we can find you, and all that kind of stuff.
Awesome. Yeah, I pulled up YouTube over here, so I'm gonna try to put it in the chat. See if it goes through. But just www.jesseforindy.com. And then that'll be my website where you can sign up for my email list. You can also read all my old emails. There's some fun, spicy stuff on there about the mayor and about a whole bunch of other people. So, you know, there's a lot going on there. You can also
in our private
on
chat.
my web. Oh, it's not. Let me see if I can.
It didn't come up on the regular one.
Well, I'll add it afterwards. But yeah, so just JESSEFORINDY.com. Just JesseForIndy.com. And my email address is Jesse@JesseForIndy.com. Shoot me an email and I'll give you my cell phone number. I'm not going to put that on YouTube, but anybody who emails me, I'm fine having it. So just hit me up, text me, call me, email me, let me know how I can be helpful to you or what you need to see more of in the city. Right now, I'm not fundraising, but I'm going to start fundraising very soon, partially just to help run people for office against some of these Democrats in name only and against some of the Republicans who are holding us back. I'm trying to run a whole slate and sweep this city council elections in 2027 and just get us a city that will actually listen to its people and not the donor owners, as Rodney put it. So, yeah, that's exactly it.
Thank you so much. I have wrapped up 2 straight days of podcasting.
Drop the mic.
Yeah, we started off Saturday with the worst television shows in TV history. Then Saturday evening, I talked with Justice for All Party. Then today, I talked with Steve Grumpine about modern monetary theory, and I ended it. I made it. I'm woke. I'm conscious. I'm doing great. Remember to subscribe. Share this, especially this one, because this is one of my better ones. Share this particular podcast out to everybody that you can. It's important for us to get this type of message out. Again, I wanted to do this type of show because I know this is happening across America. We're not in an isolated vacuum.
Nope.
But I always like to start at home. So join me. I'm debating on whether I should do a show Tuesday about the State of the Union address, and I'm thinking about not doing it. But part of me says I should, so we'll see. But remember to subscribe, like this page, comment, share. I'm going to take us down to the outro. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Thank you, Jesse. Thank you so much.
Love and solidarity. Thank you, Tracy, for having me on. Sorry it took me so long for us to find a schedule that worked.
Yeah. We're going to hopefully get to see each other again in person.
Sounds good.
Yep. So we're taking us down and we'll do the outro.